Okay, this is today's agenda. We're going to talk about before you move in and while you are living. And then when you move out, what you have to think about it, we're going to talk about. And then at last, I'm going to try to provide you where to get help. If you have any question, you can type it in our chat box or you can ask at the end of the session. Let's begin with before you move in. So when you rent a place, you are making a legal contract with your landlord. This is often called a lease, tenancy agreement, or rental agreement. It can be in writing or just spoken. Make sure you understand what you are agreeing to. So basically, what I'm going to say is that it's either written contract or a verbal contract, but it's always better you make one written contract, and before you sign for the contract, you have to read carefully and you have to understand all the sections and options clearly, so that later on when you have some trouble with your landlord, you know which section gonna section for you and what kind of condition is going to be your improvement to appeal to your landlord. Okay, so if someone if any landlord asks you not to make agreement and it's okay, you and me, we are friends, I know you, I'm a good person, let's just make a contract verbally, I don't think it's a good idea. Okay, so here, do I need to get something in writing? Personally, I say yes, always, 100%. Most tenancy agreements have to be in writing on the government standard lease form. So there is a few different types of lease form. If you hire the real estate agency, the broker, then they will do their own real estate form. But I recommend you, there is a government standard lease form. You can easily access, if you Googling Canada government standard lease form, you can download it and you can, fill out your part, and then you can ask your landlord fill out their part. Okay, it's gonna be legal document if both parties, you and your landlord, sign on it. And this form is good because it's very clear to understand, and it has all the necessary sections that covers and protect your right. So there's no hidden things, okay, because government make the standard lease form. So if it's possible, landlord says 2,000 per month for you starting from this month, then it's legal. Okay, you cannot complain about, oh, you charged $1,000 last month and you charge me $2,000. It's double up. It's not fair. You cannot say that because landlord, they can charge the price just want if they take a new tenant. Okay, but actually what is that, increase your rent in 6 months or in 3 months, less than 1 year. So legally, a year is a legal period of time that the landlord can raise their rent again. Okay, what else do I have to pay for before I move in? There is a security deposit. This money is for the last rent before you move in. So if you already rent out your place, you must have a experience that your landlord asks you, okay, first month and last month's payment, right? So first month, because you are moving in, you pay it. Your last month's payment, not because they want to keep your money, but because it's for the security purpose to keep landlord there, right? They ask you the last month's payment as a deposit money. And this money, because it's deposit money, it's not refundable, okay? If you meet a very nice landlord, you explain, oh, I have a very urgent emergency situation my back home, so I have to leave earlier than our contract. So would you please refund my security deposit. And if landlord is really nice, they can say yes. But legally, it's not refundable. Okay, so because it's a security deposit, if you cannot fulfill all your lease agreement period of time, then it belongs to the landlord. If you just leave 11 months and you give the tenant, you give the landlord the moving out notice 2 months before, then your last month's security deposit gonna be for your last month payment. So at the last month, you do not need to pay. You just leave, L-I-V-E, and then you leave, L-E-A-V-E, okay? And there is another deposit, which is a key deposit. Your landlord must give this money back. This is refundable because this is for the key. So when you take the key for the space, the landlord asks key deposit. Just in case if you lost the key, that means they have to change the lock, whole sum of lock plus keys. So it's gonna cost some money. So they just want to deposit some money for that kind of emergency situation. But when you move out, if you return the key, then they must refund this amount of money back to you. Okay. Insurance. Okay, having your own liability insurance can help protect you if you cause damage by accident to your landlord's or another tenant's property. Some tenancy agreements might require you to have liability insurance. Okay, so it depends. Okay, but if the landlord very careful and they have a bad experience previously, then they put the section saying that, okay, if you want to lease out or rent out this, unit, then you have to have your home insurance. That's one of the conditions. Okay, uh, uh, it's always better you have a home insurance because you don't know what's going to happen, and if something happens regard to the rent place, it costs a lot. So to prevent those kind of unexpected payment, it's better you just have insurance, you buy insurance, and then pay little by little per month. Okay, and this is a small tip. If you have a car, then when you do your car insurance, there is a package with a car insurance plus house insurance. So sometimes if you buy house insurance with your car insurance, it reduces your car insurance. I don't know how it works, but rather than buy car insurance alone, sometimes it reduces your car insurance amount if you add on your home insurance. So if you have a car and you are renting out some places, you can take a look at that kind of option as well. Many tenants think that they do not need contents insurance because they are covered by their landlord insurance, but this is not usually true. Okay, the only time that damage to your belongings might be paid for by your landlord insurance is when the damage is your landlord's fault. So which means we just automatically think that because my landlord has a home insurance, whatever is inside of that space gonna be insured, protected by that insurance. That's no. Okay, so context insurance is only for the stuff inside of the space. So your personal belongings, your furniture, or your books, all those kind of things. Okay, so for example, I have a case, a few years ago, during the winter time, there was a flood because of the weather. It sounds strange, but if you leave a basement, winter time, the weather gets warmer unexpectedly. The snow all melted, and then the basement can be flooded up with the water. Okay, so at that time, the person who didn't have a content insurance, they had a big, huge, damage on their belongings, but they couldn't do anything because there was no content insurance. The tenants didn't know that they had to have a content insurance. So unfortunately, it was not covered by any one of the landlord, and of course, they didn't have their own content insurance. They had to cry a lot because all the flood damaged belongings you cannot use, right? So that was happened, one of my friends. So I think it's always better if you have another protection for your belongings and for your facility. What if a landlord discriminate against me? Okay, discrimination happens when a landlord refuses to rent to you or treats you badly because of your race, your sex, your gender, your age, your sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, marriage status, because you are married or because you are same-sex marriage, or your color, your nationality, your religion, or the country where you were born. If they make one of these as an excuse and refuse to rent to you, that's discrimination. There's more cases. They refuse you because you are disability, or they refuse you because you are receiving social assistance. For example, like Ontario Works or ODSP, Ontario Disability, support, those kind of things. Or they refuse you because you have children. Like, oh, we do not want to rent out this space if you have a young child. They are too loud, they are headache, something like that. That's all discrimination. If you experience discrimination while you're renting out your place, then you may be able to get true legal help, okay? Because this is illegal. Nobody can say no to you because of all of this reason, okay? While you're living, what do you have to pay attention? Let's see. Rent receipts. Rent receipts can be very important in two reasons. Okay, first, if you have a dispute with your landlord, if you have to fight against your landlord, then your rent receipt gonna be one of the strong evidence that you are doing your part. Okay, and second, when you fill out your income tax return, you need a rent receipt. Okay, when you doing your rent report, the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, they do not ask you to include all your rent receipt at that moment. But after you report your tax, CRA can ask you anytime, can I see your rent receipt to prove that this amount of money that you claimed for 2023 as your rent, we want to check it, whether it's correct or not. They can ask you anytime. And if they ask you, you have to provide the rent receipt. Okay, so it's always important if you have a rent receipt and keep it in safe. So ask your landlord for the rent receipt, because the law says that your landlord must give you a receipt if you ask for one. Okay, they cannot say no. I know there is some landlord who take cash from you and they hesitant to give your rent receipt because they do not want to claim that income, the rent income, as your whole yearly income. But that's not right, okay? That's illegal. I don't know. Don't worry about what the landlord gonna do for their tax report, but you need your rent. So if they say no, then you have to say, oh, I have a right and you have a responsibility to give me a rent receipt. And if somebody say, no, I cannot give you rent receipt, something is wrong with that landlord, okay? They want to hide something, okay? So make sure that you take your rent receipt. You can ask whole year rent receipt if you continuously leave, okay? All those kind of detailed information has to be there. There's no legal form for rent receipt unless it's like a apartment or condominium that run by any management company. If it's a personal individual landlord, then there's no form. But whatever information that I told you, if you guys put it in and the landlord sign, then it's official rent receipt. Okay. And also, after you move out, you have a right to ask your landlord for the receipt, the past receipt, if you ask within 12 months. So don't forget to ask your receipt before you move out. If you move out, it's a little bit tricky and a little bit, hard to ask and get the receipt. But while you're living there, it's easier and it's your right. And the landlord has an understanding that they have to give rent receipt, so it's not that hard to get it. Okay, but keep the rent receipt is really important. Rent increase, like what I told you before, 12 months apart is the legal period. Okay, after you move in, your landlord must wait at least 12 months before raising your rent. Okay, uh, and any increases after that also must be at least 12 months apart. So simply say the rent increase is every a year, once a year. Okay, they cannot increase rent because other prices increased. That doesn't make sense. Okay, if you move in October 1st and next year October 1st, rent can be increased. If next year October 1st the rent increased, that means next year October 1st they have a chance to increase rent. Okay. And even though they want to increase the rent, they cannot do it all of a sudden. Legally, 90 days, 3 months in advance, written notice. They have to give you written notice 3 months in advance saying that, okay, starting from next year, for example, starting from 3 months later, October 1st, I'm going to increase your rent from this amount to this amount. But even in this case, there is a guideline amount. Okay, 2022 by government, the rent increase rate was 1.2 from your previous rent. And this year it's 2.5. Okay, so it's a little bit higher than last year because during the COVID time, the government asked all the management and landlord just freeze their increase. So they 1 year they didn't raise their rent, and then now they ask government if they can ask a little bit higher rent increase than usual. So government allowed, and now it's 2.5. Okay, but there is exception. Okay, I know a lot of you guys are living in the new residential apartment buildings like condos or houses. So if the building first time rent started from November 15, 2018, okay, so like 5 years ago, right? If that building is not more than 5 years old, then that buildings are not rent controlled building, which means previous explanation that I told you, like there is a rent increase percentage, those kind of things, guidelines, it's not working for that building, which means landlord can increase the rent year to year to whatever they want, and they are not required to follow any guidelines. So this year you moved in. The building was built in 2019 January, right? So it's quite new building. You moved in $2,000 per month, right? And then after a year, your landlord asks you 4,000 per month. It's ridiculous, right? It's a double up. But because the building is new and it's not under the law, the rent increase guideline, that law, they can do that. The landlord has a right to increase a year after rent fee that much. It depends on that, and it's legal. Okay, so if you don't know and you moved in, you find out, oh, it's very new building and nice, it's good. But later on, there's a possibility that your landlord wants to increase the rent fee ridiculously. Okay, all of a sudden, like $400 more, or $1,000 more. So if you put this in your mind, then it's gonna be helpful for you to think about the unexpected situation as well. Okay. However, they must wait 12 months before they can request an increase, which means if they increased it, then they have to wait another a year. It's the same thing. They cannot increase anytime they want. There is a minimum 1 year apart period to increase rent. Sorry, it's me. What other rules must my landlord follow? Okay, your landlord is not allowed to cut off your water, electricity, heat, oil, or gas, even if you owe rent. Your landlord must give you enough heat in winter. Okay, so for example, I couldn't pay my rent for 3 months, but that doesn't mean that landlord get angry and I'm gonna cut off your water, electricity, so that I rush to pay his rent. He cannot do that. Especially in the winter time, regardless of the situation, they have to provide enough heat so that you are not gonna be chill in the home. Okay. And another thing is usually your landlord cannot come into your place without telling you in writing 24 hours before. So if your landlord wants to come inside of your unit and do something, they have to give you a written notice 1 day before, 1 day in advance. Okay. Or I'm living in apartment, so I always get the 24 hours in advance notice by mail, okay, by letter. But condominium, I'm not sure, but maybe the landlord can text you or call you and give you notice. Oh, tomorrow I'm gonna go to your unit and then I'm gonna try to fix this, or I'm gonna check the water meter, whatever, right? But without notice, because landlord, I can come in anytime your unit, that's big no. Okay, as long as you are rented out the space, you have a right. Okay, and if it's not comfortable with you, you can say no. Okay, and you can reschedule. If it's a very mandatory urgent, then landlord just give you 24 hours notice and they can come in. You cannot say it's illegal. You cannot kick them out. Okay. What other rules must my landlord follow? Your landlord must fix your place or things that came with your place. For example, a stove or a fridge, sink, those kind of things, they have to fix it. They have a responsibility to fix and change. Okay. Another thing is your landlord must get rid of bed bugs, cockroaches, mice, or other pests. That's their responsibility too. But your responsibility as a tenant is report. If you find there is a bed bugs, report right away. If you see even small one cockroaches, you have to report. Mice, of course. If you are not report and the situation getting worse and worse, then you have some kind of responsibility as well. So report, then they're gonna come and do some pest control stuff. What if my landlord breaks the rules? Get legal advice if your landlord will not follow these rules. Sometimes there is a 1 year time limit to take legal action. So move fast, okay? If you think your landlord is doing something illegal stuff to you, then report right away to the law advice, agencies or, tenant board, those kind of things. It is usually best to keep paying your rent. If not, your landlord might try to evict you, which means kick you out. This guy is not paying rent properly. I cannot stand anymore. I'm gonna kick you out. They can do that. Okay. Moving out. What if I want to move out? You and your landlord can agree to end your tenancy. Okay. I have to add a little bit more situation thing here. So you have a 1 year lease agreement, but you want to move before your lease agreement finish, then you have to have your landlord agreement. Okay, you cannot just end it up. If the landlord doesn't agree, then there's a chance that you just I hope that it's not going to happen, but if you want to leave, you have to leave. The best choice is that you have to find a new tenant. unless the landlord agrees. Okay, if landlord is not agree to finish your lease agreement before 1 year, then there's no way that you're gonna get rid of that lease agreement unless you find out new tenant. Okay, you may also have to move out if your landlord evicts you. There is a certain reason why landlord has a right to kick you out. Okay, we're gonna take a look later, but not you want to move out, but your landlord wants you to move out, then there is cases that you have to move out. We're gonna take a look soon. Okay, how to give a notice to your landlord. There is a landlord and tenant boards form N9. It's a form for tenant's notice to end the tenancy, okay? You have to Google search, okay, landlord and tenant board form 9 N9, and then fill out the form, your part, and then give that form as a notice to your landlord, okay? If you rent the place by the day or by the week, then at least 28 days notice. Okay, you have to at least, longer is better, but at least 28 days before you have to give a notice so that your landlord know the situation and prepare things. Okay, if you rent by the month, monthly, okay, then at least 2 months, 60 days. Okay, 1 year lease, at least 6 days, same as rent by month, 2 months notice, and the termination date cannot be before the last day of the lease, what I explained before, right? 1 year lease means from this year to this year. So if you cannot finish until this year, you cannot finish the contract. That's why you have to find new tenant to fill out the, leftover time for you, and you can leave. Okay, it's a little bit more, tricky and a little bit more complicated things. But if you can find a good new tenant, then the new tenant gonna just take all the conditions over from you, and then the new person gonna just pay and fill out the rest of the day. Then you're okay. Okay, here you go. Eviction condition. Okay, how and when the landlord can kick you out. Okay, there is a certain reasons. First, owing rent. If you are not paying rent properly, that's a big reason that landlord can kick you out. And in this case, landlord only gives you 2 weeks notice. Okay, they can give you only 2 weeks notice and then say, I cannot stand you anymore. You didn't pay 2 months, 3 months, 4 months rent. So you have to leave my house after 2 weeks, period. Then you have to move out in 2 weeks. Okay, and if you cause damages by being careless or disturbing the landlord or other tenant, that's gonna be another reason you're gonna be kicked out. And in this case, only 20 days landlord notice. Okay, but this is very tricky because disturbing the landlord, how much, in what sense, right? It can be various, it can be different case by case, but the point is that landlord can say, oh, you disturb me so much with this, so I cannot stand you anymore. Now, please leave. Then you have your own reason. You can defend yourself. But this case, I think you can go to tenant landlord board and you can fight, in court there. There's a tenant landlord court, okay? Only manages all issues between tenants and landlord things. So you can argue and fight against your landlord reason, but here landlord has a right to say that and right to give you notice to ask you to move out. Okay, and your landlord family member or a caregiver wants to move in. Okay, I see many times this is one of the reasons that landlord all of a sudden inform the tenants and, oh, I'm so sorry, but my son got married and they want to move into here. So would you please move out? I heard so many stories like that. This is one of very common reason why landlord wants you to move out. In this case, still they have to give you 2 months notice, and when they give you notice, they have to use the certain form based on this situation and give you that notice so that it's officially they explain that, okay, this is the reason why you have to move out, and legally they have a right. If your landlord just talk to you verbally, oh, I'm sorry, can you move out because my daughter wants to move in soon, blah blah blah, then you have to ask, okay, as I know, you have to use a certain form to ask me with that reason. Unless you give me that written notice, I don't take your verbal notice as a notice. You can say that, okay? And just for your benefit, if landlord use this as a fake reason to kick you out, and then after you move out, they didn't their family member or whatever, their caregiver, they didn't move in, and landlord rent out the place to another tenant, and you found out that, then you can report, and the landlord, they have to pay fine because they tell a lie. They use a wrong and fake reason to kick you out. So it's illegal. Okay. So if you suspicious about your landlord saying that, oh, my daughter, my son, my husband, whatever, wants to move in, and you are moving out but you are suspicious, then you can keep in watch and then report if they make another tenant, paid tenant. Okay. Okay, Residential Tenants Act. The Residential Tenancies Act, RTA, is the law that sets the rules for rent increases, evictions, repairs, and many other issues that affect tenants. Okay, so if you have any issue with your landlord, this is the law that you have to take a look, see whether there is a section or there is an option that can cover situation or supporting situation. Do you have all the rights and responsibilities of a tenant under the Residential Tenancies Act? You are not sure, you want to take a look, then please check this web tool. Okay, this is the web address that you can read all the Residential Tenancies Act sections, so that you can find out the law base, how you can fight against your landlord if you have any issues and problems. Here is the useful, helpful information, the website. So community legal cleaning, tenants duty, counsel program, steps to justice, investigations, landlord and tenant board, tenants organization. These are all the law based agencies or organization can give you the information and some free support when you have issues with your tenant, with your landlord. And also, I'm planning to have a tax related section next month, November 7th. It's Tuesday. 10 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock p.m., the same session. But I'm going to talk about Canada's tax system and also benefits that qualify for international students. Okay, many international students, they think that, oh, I'm a permanent resident, I'm not a citizenship, so I don't need to do anything related to tax. You guys think like that, but that's no. Okay, even though you are international student, even though you have a zero income, still you are qualified to do your tax report. And as long as you are doing your yearly tax report, there's a certain benefit that government can pay for you. Okay, so for example, you are paying rent, right? As a resident who lives in Canada, you are paying rent every month. On top of that, while you're living here, you're paying taxes like a harmonized tax, like a 18% tax whenever you buy something, whenever you are eating something, not 18, 13%, right? So all those kind of paid tax by you, if government see you report your tax, then they calculate those kind of things, and then they decide whether you are qualified to get certain money back or not. So even though you do not have any income, international students, you guys have 200 to 500 money back from the government if you are doing your tax report. Okay, so we're gonna talk about all those kind of very basic, very general information related to the Canada's tax on November 7th, Tuesday. So please join if you are interested in. And if you have any other tax related or renting rights or your work rights in Canada, then please contact me with this email address. I can support you by email, or we can make a Zoom one-on-one appointment, or you can come to St. James campus on every Tuesday to meet me in person. Okay. If you have any question, you can ask now.
Hi,
Okay.
I arrived
Yes,
in September.
this year, September.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
haven't stayed there for longer than the 180
Mhm.
days. So do I need to report
Mhm.
tax for this year?
Okay. So, how long you are planning to stay in Canada?
I study in the college, so I will stay here for 2 years.
Yeah, see? So even though you just in September, you're gonna stay until next year and maybe following year, right? So,
Yeah, 2025, yeah.
yes, in Canada, we are reporting our tax. For example, 2023 from January to December. This year tax we report 2024 between February to April. Okay, so if you stays longer, that means next year February you have a September to December 2023 certain economic activities in Canada, right? So you are qualified to report your tax.
No, but I haven't stayed longer than the required period, 180 days, so I still need to report tax. The question,
180?
the reason I ask is because I have income from overseas, from my own country.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that because I haven't stayed long enough this year, so
No,
probably
no,
I
no,
don't need
no.
to
So I think,
report tax,
Juan,
right?
I think you have to come to my tax session for sure. Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. You can report your tax. When you report your tax from January to August while you were staying in your country, they're gonna ask your economic activity during that time in your country, okay? Because it's a part of your 2023. But anyways, doesn't matter as long as you have an address in Canada and you're gonna leave, you're gonna stay in the future, right? Then you are qualified. See people who came like last year, December, like 1st, December 28th, still, I'm not quite sure they have to or not, but at least 1 month they lived, they came to Canada 1 month, 2022, then they are qualified for report their 2022 tax. So it
Okay,
sounds awkward and weird, but you are qualified.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. And you don't need to have any income. Even Canadian citizen, permanent resident, like housewives, they do not have any income, right? But they are doing their personal income tax so that government calculate based on their situation, like they get married, if they have children, how many children they have. Because the mom doesn't have an income, father has a certain income, they combine their income together and calculate how much money as a child tax benefit they have to give back to that person. Okay, so they want to see all your financial situation because they want to calculate the benefit level.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Any other question? related text or even today's topic? Last month I did a fraud and scam alert session, and I mentioned that while you are looking for the house, I know right now Toronto housing is crazy. I've never experienced this kind of crazy situation in housing like these days. But anyways, because it's so expensive and there's not places, many people rushing to rent some places, and there's a more possibility that you can be fraud or scammed by people, right? So when you see the advertisement or when you contact the person, the condition is too good, sounds too good to be true, then you have to be suspicious about the situation, okay? And if the person asks you to send you, the person asks you to send some money as a deposit to keep the spot, then you have to be very careful. Unless you see the spaces and meet the person and sign the contract, you have to check one more time, double, triple times. So I met a client who recently had a contract for the space. He went there and take a look the space, and he met the landlord and he signed it, but the person was not the landlord. There was an actual landlord. The person rent out the space and pretend he's a landlord, and he made another contract with my client, and then he disappeared. And the real landlord came and say, "Who are you?" So my client was very, very in a difficult situation. So even that kind of very how can I say, unrighteous, scam is happening nowadays. I hope that none of you guys experience those kind of unfair, unright situation. So please be careful, and I recommend you to use real estate, agencies, brokers. It costs some money, but they know better related to the landlord-tenant law, and they have a more experience and resources. So at least you can trust them, right? So just be careful. If you don't have any question, I think we are good to go. Thank you so much for participating.